Hello and welcome to the program. The political world is reeling from a massive announcement. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is resigning from Congress, effective January 5th, 2026. This is not just a standard retirement announcement. It is a spectacular political divorce, delivered with maximal drama and quickly followed by a brutal, ungrateful dismissal from the very man she served, Donald Trump. Tonight, we break down what this means, why it happened, and the terrifying lesson it offers about absolute loyalty in American politics. Let's begin with the core of the story, Greene's video. The language she chose was not accidental. She framed her departure around the idea of a failed covenant. Quote, "Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interest because our job title is literally representative." The key points of her rationale were policy isolation. She cited her defense of certain issues, like protecting victims of trafficking, a clear reference to her vote for the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which Trump initially opposed, resulting in her being called a traitor and threatened by the president, the same president she tirelessly supported. The search results confirm her recent friction with Trump was over foreign policy, healthcare, and the Epstein files. Presidential threat? She states she was threatened by the President of the United States, whom she fought for. This isn't just a political disagreement, it's an allegation of personal menace and betrayal, confirming reports that Trump had branded her a traitor and was threatening to endorse a primary challenger against her. The battered wife analogy. This is the most shocking rhetorical choice. Quote, "I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better." This is an incredibly powerful, loaded, and deliberate metaphor. We'll analyze the impact of this loaded phrase in a moment, but she is essentially equating her political relationship with Trump and the MAGA machine to a cycle of control and abuse, where staying means hoping for change that never comes. She explicitly stated she did not want her district to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against her. Her resignation is set for January 5th, 2026, just before the heart of the next election cycle, ensuring a massive political disruption in her Georgia district. If Greene's announcement was a bitter breakup letter, Trump's response was a note reading, "I hardly knew you." When ABC's Rachel Scott pressed him on the news, his reply was chillingly brief. "I think it's great news for the country. It's great." A three-word, three-second dismissal of a woman who risked her career and, as she claims, her personal safety to be her fiercest defender. Scott followed up asking about the rift. Trump's response was even more revealing. "Only between me and her, not her and me." The political implications of that phrase are profound. It means the problem is hers, the power is mine. Any tension comes from her defecting from my command, not from me doing anything to her. He is utterly untouched by the political casualty he just created, pivoting to talking about having good chemistry with the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, just hours after Greene's announcement. For a politician who staked her entire career on being her ultimate champion, Trump's reaction is the definition of political ingratitude. We must put aside any temporary political sympathy for Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're not here to crown her a political martyr. The context of her resignation must be weighed against her full record. This is the woman who promoted QAnon and other conspiracy theories, which led the Democratic-led House to strip her of committee assignments early in her first term, was a staunch election denier and a key sympathizer for the January 6th insurrectionists, made headlines for hateful and bigoted statements, yet managed to rally the extreme right and raise millions in small donations despite her exile. She won her 2024 re-election with 64% of the vote in a deeply Republican district that Trump himself won with 68%. Her political strength was entirely derivative of the MAGA movement. So, why the sudden policy shift and the public break? Her recent deviations on the Epstein files, advocating for affordability and questioning foreign aid, showed a growing focus on issues that affect the working class Americans she claims to represent, rather than just the culture wars Trump demands. She seemed to realize that while Trump uses populism as a brand, he doesn't use it as a policy framework. When she tried to legislate populism, she became a threat. This move is either a sudden discovery of principle or a highly cynical rebranding for a potential 2026 Senate run or a 2028 presidential campaign, positioning her as the post-Trump populist heir. Let's spend a moment on the most potent phrase of her resignation: "I refuse to be a battered wife." While the use of this analogy, which carries deep, painful social and legal significance in a political context, is subject to debate, the rhetorical power is undeniable. It achieves several political goals for her, serving as a powerful political weapon. It elevates the conflict. It's no longer a simple political spat. It's a profound, personal, and emotional struggle for self-respect and dignity. It creates a universal narrative of a subordinate finally fighting back against an abusive authority figure. It defines Trump's leadership style. She frames him not just as a harsh boss, but as an abusive partner in a cycle of control and violence and remorse. The battered party is expected to absorb the abuse, keep quiet, and hope things get better. By refusing, she positions herself as the one regaining her agency and dignity. It speaks to the MAGA base. The analogy describes exactly what many in the conservative movement have had to do for years: swallow their conscience, accept the humiliation, and remain loyal to Trump despite his self-serving behavior. She is telling the base, "I am leaving the abusive relationship you are all still in." This phrase provides her political cover for her future ambitions. Trump's reaction confirms a central truth about his political identity. He is purely transactional. The second your utility wanes, or the second you challenge his supremacy, he discards you, and he does it with maximum public cruelty to ensure others learn the lesson. Let's run through the history. We're not talking about rivals. We're talking about his most intimate, loyal servants, both political and personal: Mike Pence, his vice president who refused to illegally overturn the 2020 election. Trump not only condemned him, but allowed his supporters to chant, "Hang Mike Pence." Michael Cohen, his personal lawyer and fixer, who was loyal for years, now a convicted felon after cooperating with investigators against Trump. Rex Tillerson, his Secretary of State and former CEO of ExxonMobil, who was publicly ridiculed and called dumb as a rock. Ronna McDaniel, used as the head of the RNC to shepherd the party through 4 tumultuous years, only to be scapegoated for election losses and eventually forced out of her role. Foreign policy. This transactional nature extends beyond individuals to global allies. He has repeatedly threatened to pull support for NATO countries, demanding they meet the 2% GDP defense spending threshold, and has famously called the alliance obsolete. His foreign policy has routinely sidelined long-standing partners in favor of transactional deals. Marjorie Taylor Greene is just the latest and perhaps the most illustrative example of this relentless political pattern. This leads us to the critical point for every American. If Donald Trump will betray and discard his most loyal foot soldier, a political celebrity who provided immense value to his movement, why on earth would any regular, non-famous American believe he cares about them? His brand of America First means Trump first. He has shown that he will only commit resources to causes that yield him political benefit. If he will actively destroy a woman who championed him because she dared to vote for the release of the Epstein files, do you truly believe he would inconvenience himself for a single parent struggling with childcare costs? Seniors relying on Social Security and Medicare? A family in need of essential support programs? He has proven he has a loyalty ceiling, and that ceiling is always lower than his own ego. Any help offered to the American people is merely a byproduct of what benefits Donald Trump politically. Greene's resignation isn't just a personal story, it's a massive tremor in the Republican landscape. The departure of Trump's most reliable cultural warrior signals a deeper truth. The MAGA coalition is coming apart at the seams. The policy deviations we saw from Greene on Epstein, on healthcare, on foreign policy, were her attempts to define MAGA outside of Trump's personal whims, leading to her public clash. This creates a vacuum in Congress. A special election, her resignation for January 5, 2026, triggers a special election in her reliably red Georgia district, forcing Republicans to spend resources defending a safe seat instead of focusing on competitive races elsewhere. Trump will certainly endorse a challenger, guaranteeing a bitter, expensive, and high-profile intra-party fight. Fractured base. It signals to the conservative base that the movement is no longer cohesive. When a figure as foundational as Greene says, "I refuse to be a battered wife," the whole structure is being questioned, potentially leading to a more chaotic, less unified GOP conference willing to challenge the leadership. Future ambitions. Greene has now positioned herself as a potential successor to MAGA, a post-Trump populist figure who learned the hard lesson that absolute loyalty to Trump is political suicide. She is signaling to the base, "I am still one of you, but he is not worth the price." Let's return to the source of the conflict: political intimidation. When Greene stepped out of line, Trump unleashed his political pressure, figuratively and, as she claims, with real safety warnings on her. As Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett highlighted, the threats are real, and she even offered to work with Greene on safety legislation. Trump relies on fear and intimidation because that is his political hammer. His history of pardoning January 6 rioters and refusing to condemn groups like the Proud Boys all serve to teach a simple, brutal lesson: obey or be destroyed. Marjorie Taylor Greene has learned the character of the man she helped empower. Her political survival now depends on moving past him, but her legacy is forever tied to the cost of that blind loyalty. That is the price of admission to Trump world. It is a one-way ticket, and the only certainty is a one-way exit. If you found this analysis valuable, first, hit that subscribe button right here on the screen. It's the single most important action you can take to help us grow and reach more people with this kind of in-depth content.